Hello and welcome to the Genuine Ginger Experience. I am your host, Mackenzie Quintana, and on this podcast, I share how to go from being surface level happy to living a life you truly love. Hi. If it sounds like I have morning voice, it's because I do. It's because it is early in the morning right now. Well, it's 6 a.m. I guess it's not like super early, but the first podcast I did, it was like really late at night, late for me anyways, and it was great. I loved it. The second podcast I did during the day, and I didn't quite like it as much. I hope you guys liked last week's episode. I didn't like it as much, and I think it maybe was just because I wasn't like really in the zone because there were some distractions with my kids. So we're gonna try out doing it early in the morning this time and see how this feels, and so far I'm liking it better. So thanks for being here. Thanks for just sticking around while I figure things out and we figure out what is going to work the best here. And I just re-listened to that to make sure the audio and everything was working, and I realized that there's a bunch of background noise because I had my window open and there are like trucks and stuff going by outside. So close the window. Hopefully that's better. Okay, so let's get into it. I hope that you left last week's podcast just feeling a little bit more, trusting a little bit more that you are who you are, and that is exactly enough who you are right now. We talked about that I was able to kind of become an observer of like who I was, and kind of just take a step back and start to notice things and get curious about things that I did, instead of like my previous MO, which was just to like kind of judge myself and and I was able to like realize that some of the judgments that I had about myself weren't actually true. And I feel like that practice, that tool that I learned, that technique or whatever you want to call it, yeah, I'd say it's a tool. That tool that I was kind of practicing and learning to do that, to take a step back, to get curious, to like observe without judgment, was kind of the next, what helped me take the next step in my journey, I guess is what we're calling it, that I'm still on, by the way. I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to tell you that like I've arrived and like my life is just so joy-filled every second of the day, because it is not. I got upset with my kids last night because they weren't listening to me. Like, I'm still human and I live with human people, and so, you know, we're all just learning, and I try to practice giving myself grace and giving them grace, but I feel like I've, you know, definitely come a long ways, and so I just want to share that and continue sharing where I'm at and learning and stuff. So but the next step that I feel like was kind of then what just kind of blew things wide open for me was to recognize and learn about the power of my thoughts. And you might have heard like that your thoughts are super powerful. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you're completely new to this idea. I am going to come at it with like the idea that you have never heard about it, just so that we make sure that we are getting the full foundation of this and like the full spectrum of this. And so if you've already heard about this, just keep listening. I'm sure it'll be a really great reminder. But hear me out. Like, and maybe you've heard this idea that like your thoughts are super powerful and you're just kind of like, whatever, like I don't get it. But hear me out, okay? Just hear me out. So maybe you don't believe in God, and that's okay. I do. I believe in God, and so I am going to talk in that person. I'm going to talk about God. If your word is universe or higher being or higher, whatever, then like that's totally great. If you don't believe in God at all, that's totally great too. I'm sure you can still learn something from here. But I do believe in God, and that was, I guess, another big part that I learned of like I said, I grew up religious, and I don't know, I feel like unconsciously I kind of had put God in this box as I was learning about him as a kid, and like I was told my whole life that he wants me to be happy. And like I read scripture that says men are that they might have joy, and I still put restrictions on that, even though there were no restrictions listed anywhere that I know of as far as the amount of and the kind of joy that I'm supposed to have. But I always just kind of saw it as like, oh yeah, he wants me to have joy like within the gospel, like, and like in life, like he wants me to be happy, but like it was kind of in this bubble of like very what's the word, like sacredness, or like, no, not sacredness, what's the word, just like like goody, like what am I trying to say? Like in this box of like, yeah, I want you to be happy, but like as long as it's just like you being happy, like serving others and like trying to be better and like serving in your church and like you know, I want you to have money, but like not too much because money is evil. And so like it, like there was like limitations to this happiness, and like I had put it in this box of like I could be happy, like he wants me to be happy, but only within this realm of living just like a nice, good, kind life, like your typical like Molly, I want to say Molly Mormon because I am a Mormon. We like to go by the church of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But so like that term Molly Mormon, I heard a lot growing up. So it's just like this like goody, like nice, your typical, I don't know, stereotypical religious girl, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And one thing that I learned is like that is completely not true. Like he wants us to experience joy beyond our own comprehension. He wants us to have everything we desire. He wants us to be good and he wants us to serve our neighbor, but like he wants us to have so much more than that, and so much joy beyond just the joy that we get from serving our neighbor and being a good human being. Like he wants us, like his limitations are completely outside religion and completely outside that space that I had put him in. And so if that is true, which I believe it is, and if he wants me to have this immense joy beyond my own comprehension, and if he created a perfect world, which I believe he did, and he set up everything in a perfect way so that I can have that joy, which I believe he did, and he only gave us power over one thing, which is our agency, meaning the power to control your own thoughts, which, you know, your thoughts then lead to your actions. So if that's like, if he wants us to have all of these amazing things in this amazing life, but he only gave us power over our own agency, over our own thoughts and actions, then maybe our own thoughts and actions are a pretty big deal. Maybe they affect a lot more than we realize that they did. And so like, I hope that maybe that's helped you. If you weren't a believer in the power of your thoughts before, I hope you are now. Let's just keep that little seed planted there and that little thought planted there. Now I'm going to go back to my story. So I was in a better place, with these like new, like I said, these new tools that I had learned to just kind of start to get curious about my actions and who I was. But I still like really wasn't living what I would say like a joy-filled life. I still wasn't like, you know, really, really completely fulfilled and satisfied with my life. But it was, like I said, I was like, unconsciously, I think I was a little bit more open to like all of like the self-development stuff and like the change and stuff, because I was able to just kind of start to become curious about things. And like I said, because I was in a place where I could accept and love myself as I was. And so I remember we have like a family chat with like my sisters and my mom. Like I said, I have 3 older sisters, and I remember one of my sisters was sharing about this podcast that she had been listening to and how it was just like the best thing ever. And she, whatever. And I was still just kind of like, yeah, okay, great for you. Like, that's great for you. I don't want it. And she kept saying like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. And then finally I remember, I don't even remember what episode number it was, but she was like, just listen to these episodes, please. I think there were 2 of them. Please, like, everyone just listen to these podcast episodes. And I was like, okay, fine. And so I remember I was listening to them in the shower. And it was a podcast called Better Than Happy by Jody Moore. And if you don't already follow that podcast, I highly, highly recommend it. Jody Moore is amazing. And I realize that now. I didn't believe it then. But so she and so many other coaches teach about the thought model. And this is something I just learned was developed by Brooke Castillo. If I'm getting my facts right, I hope I am. Anyway, so this is not like me. This is nothing new. Like, I didn't create this. This is completely, developed by someone else who's then taught it to so many other coaches who have then taught it to so many people like me. And so now I'm teaching it to you. So I'm listening to this podcast episode, and she's talking about that you can have a circumstance, and she defines a circumstance as something that, like, a fact that you could take to a court of law and it would be like they would take it as a fact, like that. So basically, like, it can't have an opinion attached to it. So if you say, I am fat, that is not a fact. That is your opinion. I mean, we could get, you could argue, I guess, that there is like certain data that like specifies when a person is fat or not or whatever. But for the sake of this, we're just going to say like your fat is just an opinion. However, if you say I weigh 375 pounds, that is a fact. That, like, just that I weigh 375 pounds, period. That is a fact, which I don't, by the way, but just putting that out there. But so that is a fact. So she says, if you have a circumstance or a fact, then you have a thought about it. And a lot of times we make those thoughts actually the circumstance. Like I said, a lot of times we'll say like, I'm fat, and we'll make that the circumstance, but actually that's just a thought. And so then that thought creates a feeling in your body. So maybe if you have the thought, I'm fat, it creates a feeling of disgust. Think about that. You might not even realize the feelings that your thoughts are creating. Let's say it creates a feeling of disgust. So then that feeling is going to cause you to take an action. And if you're having a feeling of disgust, chances are the action you take is not going to be a super great one. You're probably gonna then maybe mope around or just like be really hard on yourself, or maybe you're gonna go try to console yourself in a tub of ice cream, or like chances are the actions that you take because you're feeling disgust are not going to really get you where you want to get. So then you're not going to have the results that you want. But here's the thing. You can choose to have a different thought about your circumstances. If the circumstance is, I weigh 375 pounds, you can choose a different thought besides I am fat. You can choose the thought, I didn't come up with a good thought to choose. Hold on. You could choose the thought, I am learning how to be healthy. Or you could choose like even just a completely neutral thought that is, this is my body. We're not giving it any judgment of saying it's fat or it's wrong. This is my body. Neutral. It's not like it might be really hard for you if you are in that place for you to then be like, I am on my way to being healthy, or like whatever. Like, so just get neutral. This is my body. What thought, what emotion could you have around that? Could you have compassion? Could you have maybe some love? That might be a bit of a stretch, but and my purpose isn't right now to like really get into all of that, but my point is you can choose a different thought, and the different thought will serve you so much better. This is a better example. I feel like I love this example. So, and I think it's one that she shared in this podcast. Let's say your husband suggests to you, hey, we should go to the gym together. I don't know why I'm on body stuff right now. I feel like it's just such a good example. It's an easy example for all of us to kind of relate to. So let's say your husband says, hey, I'd love it if we went to the gym together. That is the circumstance, okay? That is the fact of what happened. Husband said, let's go to the gym together. Now, most of us, if you're a female with a female brain, most of us are then going to jump to, oh my gosh, my husband thinks I'm fat, or he thinks I'm lazy, or blah, 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 blah. XYZ negative reason for why the husband said we should go to the gym together. But that is like, you don't know if that's true. All he said was, let's go to the gym together. So you could ask him if you wanted to. There's an idea. You could ask him what he means by that. But you could also just choose a thought that is going to serve you. So instead of thinking, oh my gosh, my husband thinks I'm fat, which, what is that thought going to do? It's going to make you mad. Probably. It's going to make you bitter towards him. It's going to make you probably get into a little passive aggressiveness, which then is not going to help your marriage. It's not going to lead to some healthy actions. So if that's not what you want, if you want to have a good marriage and you want to have a good relationship with your husband, and if you believe that your husband has your best interest at heart, and if you aren't married, I apologize for this example, or if you have, just a boyfriend or a different significant other, you could still work with this. But if you believe that they have your best interest at heart, maybe you could choose you could choose the thought after your husband says, let's go to the gym together. You could choose to think, oh, that's so sweet. He wants to spend more time with me. Or you could choose the thought, wow, he wants me to be healthy. He wants to help me take better care of myself. These are all thoughts that you could choose that then are going to lead to some much better actions, some much better feelings that are going to lead to some much better actions. So this really blew my mind. I remember like being in the shower, listening and just being like, oh my gosh, like I can choose a thought. Like I can choose a thought that's going to help me instead of a thought that's going to make my life miserable. I could just think about that. Like you literally have the power to choose your thoughts. And I know, like, for me, when I started like practicing this, there was a lot of like, well, but what if my husband really does think I'm fat? Or like, what if the thought that I'm choosing isn't a true thought? Well, in my opinion, if it's true or not necessarily, like the thought that you're choosing, if it's going to make you feel how you want to feel and it's going to make you take the actions that you want to take, who the heck cares? Maybe your husband really does think you're fat, but you sitting around moping about the fact that he thinks you're fat is not going to help you. And if he thinks you're fat, that's on him. Like, that's his life, and he can have that opinion about you. As long as it doesn't affect your marriage, it doesn't matter what he thinks. You're going to be much better off, and your marriage is going to head in a much better direction if you choose the thought, my husband cares about me, and so he wants to go to the gym with me. Like, whether that's actually true or not, you living a life where that is your reality is going to make you so much more happy. And so and I saw something the other day and it was like, choose the better lie. So like a lot of these thoughts that we have are probably lies, whether they're negative or positive. Like most of the time, the thoughts that we have about something probably aren't true, regardless of what they are. They're a lie. We all just live our lives in a lie, probably, because a lot of times we don't know the actual reasons, right? And so choose the better lie. If you're going to choose to believe something, let's choose to believe something that's going to help you. And so like once I realized that, I was just like I said, I was blown away. I was like, wow, like I could choose to believe anything. I could choose to believe that the reason my kids dumped out a box of cereal on the floor isn't because they wanted to piss me off. Maybe it's just because they were trying to get some cereal and their brain doesn't function well enough to realize that if they just put their hand inside the box, they can pull out a handful. Instead, their brain believes that they have to dump it over. And so that's their best way for them to get some cereal out of the box. Maybe they didn't actually just want to piss me off and ruin my day. Isn't that so freeing? Oh my gosh, it was so freeing for me. And it definitely took a lot of practice. And I still, to this day, it's been, what has it been? Almost, I don't know, probably close to 4 years since I learned this concept. And I'm still catching myself in thoughts that are like, wow, Kenzie, you're still having that thought. Have you not realized how that thought is affecting you? And so enter grace, right? I give myself grace. I practice giving myself grace. It's all about observing your thoughts without judgment. Oh my gosh. Okay. My computer just went into some sort of frenzy. Okay, but we're still live. So I got distracted by that, but I think it's because I need to wrap this up because I want to kind of keep these around 20 minutes. So I invite you to just kind of start noticing your thoughts and noticing if the thoughts that you're choosing, because you are choosing them. A lot of times it doesn't feel like it because most of the time, like I think it's like 90% of our thoughts, or probably more than that for most of us, if you haven't been like consciously thinking your thoughts, choosing your thoughts, most of your thoughts are just like autopilot. They are just an automatic response because you've been having those thoughts. You probably chose that thought when you were like 3 years old, and it's just been running in your brain for the last, X amount of years, however old you are. And so a lot of times these thoughts are just habit. They're just like instinctive thoughts. So we don't realize that we're actually choosing them, but you did choose them at some point. So you can choose another one. Like I said, it's going to take some practice. And this is kind of like where I always kind of go back to this. Well, not always. I think we're going to get way beyond the thoughts in this podcast. I'm going to be sharing a lot of things outside of just the thought model, but it is such a powerful tool to have, to just start practicing this awareness of your thoughts and start practicing choosing and recognizing that maybe the thoughts that you're choosing aren't helping you, and practicing choosing better ones. And like I said, maybe it's just a matter of becoming neutral. Maybe instead of choosing a thought like, oh my gosh, my kid actually dumped out the box of cereal because he loves me. Well, that's gonna be kind of a stretch. But maybe you could my kid dumped out a box of cereal because he was hungry. Like just something neutral. Just something like, it just happened because it did. And I'm not going to give it any greater meaning that's going to get all dramatic and give me like all of this drama energy and put me into this like downward spiral. I'm not going to give it that energy. It's just going to be neutral. Okay, we're going to keep talking about this, I'm sure. But again, I just kind of wanted to lay the foundation of that today because it is monumental if you can grasp this concept and accept this concept. And if you don't accept it, I invite you to get curious about why you don't want to accept this. Because it has literally changed my life. Like if I could pinpoint one thing that probably had the biggest impact on me living a life that I truly love, it would probably be this tool of recognizing my thoughts and choosing ones that serve me better. So I can't wait for next week. I would love to hear your review in the comments, or not in the comments. I would love for you to leave a review on my podcast. You can tell that this is not natural for me yet. I'll get there. Give me a follow on social media. I love Instagram. Instagram is my jam, especially Instagram stories. So my handle is the.genuine.ginger. So follow me on Instagram if you're on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. just Mackenzie Quintana. I'm also on TikTok. It's the same thing, the.genuine.ginger. And my website is up and running, so thegenuineginger.com. These are all places that you can connect with me, and I hope that you do, as well as just following along, subscribing to this podcast. I would love to connect with you. I'd love to be in touch with you, hear how you are liking what I am sharing, and I'd love to just hear from you and connect with you. So have a fabulous rest of your week or rest of your day or beginning of your day or whenever you're listening to this. Just be fabulous. And I will talk to you soon. Okay. Love you. Bye.